Welcome to the first March edition of Let's Talk Criterion. In this edition, we take a look at the white-knuckle ride that is The Wages of Fear, getting its 4K UHD upgrade. Henri-Georges Clouzot has a relatively small filmography. His filmmaking career was interrupted in 1935 when he was diagnosed with tuberculosis and he was bedridden for nearly 5 years. But his stay in the sanatorium would greatly influence his career going forward. He was able, for instance, to read his scripts out loud, and he learned the mechanics of storytelling, and he was also able to observe the behaviour of other patients in the institution. His early film work was Le Corbeau, The Raven, which is currently in the Criterion collection, and that's from 1943, and Cahiers des Orfèvres from 1947. He had his first major international success with Le Salaire de La Peur, The Wages of Fear, in 1953, as well as Diabolique in 1955, another title in the Criterion collection. Now, The Wages of Fear is a thriller, and it's directed and co-written by Clouzot, and it stars Yves Montand, Charles Vanel, Peter van Eyck, and Vera Clouzot. And it centres on a group of 4 down-on-their-luck European men. Now, they're hired by an American oil company to drive 2 trucks over mountain dirt roads. But the only thing is, these trucks have been loaded with nitroglycerin, needed to extinguish an oil well fire. Now, when The Wages of Fear was initially released in 1953, certain anti-American scenes had to be cut from the US versions of the print of the film. The movie portrays an American oil company, which is modelled after Standard Oil. They portray it as being ruthless, immoral, and money-grabbing. And the corporation hires 4 down-on-their-luck individuals to transport really delicate nitroglycerin, because if the men don't make it, then no one will miss them. And there will be no messy union problems either. Now, it's important here to note that Henri-Georges Clouzot does not openly criticise Americans, or indeed the American lifestyle. This is something that would have been risky less than a decade after the end of World War II. Now, the film is divided into 2 clearly differentiated segments. We have the setup, and then we have the payoff. Now, the first hour is devoted to introducing the characters and establishing the setting for the film. But the latter is especially important, since the grim, poverty-stricken town in which the film is set must be fully realised for viewers to understand the protagonist's desperation to get out of that town. The town, Las Piedras, is governed by the law of inertia. What I mean by that is, no one has the will or the financial means, even, to change their current lifestyle. The attempt would take too much effort on their part. So the men of Las Piedras, many of whom are foreigners, do odd jobs so they can simply earn just about enough to eat and drink. Now, Clouzot's camera captures images that compose a picture of a timeless community, devoid of hope and, indeed, optimism, where the heat is very oppressive and all the locals are exploited by the oil company. The dangerous task of transporting the nitroglycerin represents a way out, either by succeeding and getting the money, or by dying. Now, the main character, if there can be considered to be one in the film, is Mario. Mario is played by Yves Montand. Now, like just about everyone else in The Wages of Fear, Mario's background, however, is shrouded in mystery. We know, for instance, that he's a Corsican, that he's an exile, and he's lived for a while in Paris. but we're never really given any specifics about why he left Paris. He makes the best of a bad situation, carrying on an affair with a local servant girl by the name of Linda, played in the film by Clouzot's own wife, Vera, in her feature debut. However, although Linda is in love with Mario, he's just using her, a fact that becomes apparent once Joe, that's Charles Vanel, arrives in the town. Now, Joe is a mid-level French gangster. He has a commanding personality, he has nerves of steel, and he has a dapper, cultured appearance. His somewhat unflappable demeanour makes him a magnet for attention as well. He takes a liking to Mario because both have lived in Paris. And Mario, seeing in Joe the potential and determination to provide a way out of Las Piedras, attaches himself almost slavishly to the older man. But as it turns out, Joe is considerably more bluster than genuine character, and in the face of pressure, he cracks and becomes a sort of Al Capone with cold feet. Not long after the journey transporting the nitroglycerin has begun, his and Mario's relative positions have actually been reversed. Now, as Mario and Joe share a truck, so do Bimba, Peter Van Eyck, and Luigi, Folco Lully. Now, we know less about these two than we do about their companions. Luigi is a talkative, seemingly harmless Italian who was Mario's best friend and roommate until Joe arrived. And Bimba is a German expatriate who was persecuted by the Nazis. Now, once the characters are introduced and the basic framework is established, Clouzot then shifts into the main part of the movie, the treacherous journey. Along the way, there are opportunities for him to ratchet up the tension here. Each of these segments is crafted with great care, particularly in the way they're edited. That's close-ups of the truck's tyres and the characters' hands, and they're used in key situations to heighten the level of suspense. Clouzot allows the audience brief breaks in between each, but the cumulative effect of the final 85 minutes is to create an elevated pulse. In order for the journey to be more than a meaningless string of action-adventure set pieces, we need the grounding that the Las Piedras scenes provide. And for the transposition of Joe and Mario's relative positions to have any meaning, it's necessary to provide the audience with the foundation of their relationship. Plus, from the simple perspective of atmosphere building and character development, Clouzot shows great economy here in what he accomplishes in only 60 minutes. So ultimately we come to understand the characters and their relationships, but Clouzot doesn't invite us to respect or sympathise with them. They are, after all, risking their lives for nothing more than money. Now, The Wages of Fear has influenced movies as diverse as The Wild Bunch and Speed. And of course, the director, William Friedkin, director of The French Connection and The Exorcist. And then we have Violent Road, another remake, also known as Hell's Highway, directed by Howard W. Koch from 1958, and Sorcerer, directed by William Friedkin in 1977. Now, Friedkin described the latter as an adaptation of the original novel he remade Wages of Fear in the mid-70s under the unlikely name of Sorcerer, with Roy Scheider headlining an international cast, and most of the filming was done on location. Unfortunately, it got somewhat eclipsed by a lot of Hollywood big titles getting theatrical screenings that year. The Wages of Fear made Yves Montand into a viable dramatic leading man. Before Clouzot cast him as Mario, he was known mainly as a singer and dancer, but Wages of Fear afforded him the opportunity to display a greater range. And another acting star in the film is veteran Charles Vanel, who invests Joe with a complexity not apparent in any of the other three leads. Vanel, who appeared in more than 100 films between the 1920s and 1980s, plays both halves of Joe, the cool gangster and the fearful card, with equal aplomb, and makes the transformation believable. Now, the film's been available in several different cuts, from the full 144-minute edition to the selectively trimmed American release. Without exception, each version has been hailed by critics for its style, depth and power to thrill. And even Hitchcock, at the height of his powers, was hard-pressed to duplicate the one-two punch of Clouzot's Wages of Fear and Diabolique. Now, the film ultimately won him international acclaim, winning both the Golden Bear and Palme d'Or in its year of release, which in turn allowed him to direct Les Diaboliques. In France, it's the fourth highest grossing film of 1953. The film did get a release on Criterion on Blu-ray and DVD in 2009, and now we see a 4K restoration that was completed on behalf of TF1 in France. The same restoration was introduced on Blu-ray in 2017. The film has HDR and Dolby Vision, and the overall quality is very high, boasting strong stability of picture, and there are a few areas where it fluctuates slightly, but those are part of the original cinematography. Now, a third remake was released in late March 2024 by Netflix. Directed by Julien Leclerc, the film stars Franck Gastambide, Albin Lenoir, Anna Girardot, and Sofiane Sermani, and it was singularly unremarkable compared to its predecessors. BFI have released this 4K restoration in 2024, and this version had a 26-page booklet as well as an extensive range of features. But now Criterion makes this restoration available in the US with uncompressed mono soundtrack. We have one 4K UHD disc of the film and one Blu-ray with the film and these special features. Interviews with Assistant Director Michel Romanoff and Marc Godin, biographer of director Henri-Georges Clouzot. Interview with actor Yves Montand from 1988. Henri-Georges Clouzot, The Enlightened Tyrant, a 2004 documentary on the director's career. Censored an analysis of cuts made to the film for its 1955 US release. Programme on the film's 4K restoration, trailers, and an essay by novelist Denis Lehane, and a compilation of interviews with the cast and crew of the film. And cover art is by Juan Esteban Rodriguez. New cover art, in fact. Now, this is one of the greatest thrillers ever committed to celluloid, a white-knuckle ride from France's legendary master of suspense. The film comes in two aspect ratios, 1:3:7:1 on the 4K and Blu-ray, and 1:3:3:1 on the DVD. It releases on Tuesday the 4th of March as existing spine 36. Some sad news now. The world heard in the last few days that veteran actor Gene Hackman has been found deceased alongside his wife Betsy Arakawa in their Mexico home. He was a prolific actor and two-time Oscar winner. He was nominated for his role of Buck Barrow in Bonnie and Clyde, and after that he starred in films like The Gypsy Moths, Downhill Racer, Marooned, The Hunting Party, before he won his Best Actor Oscar for his role as William Popeye Doyle in The French Connection. His career then went on with more successful roles like in The Poseidon Adventure, Scarecrow, the brilliant The Conversation, Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein, before he catapulted to stardom as the iconic role of Lex Luthor in Superman, and wonderful roles to follow: No Way Out, Mississippi Burning, Unforgiven, The Firm, Crimson Tide, Enemy of the State, and The Royal Tenenbaums, also in the collection, before his final two films, Runaway Jury and Welcome to Mooseport. You'll agree, just some highlights from an extensive film career. Gene also did many television appearances as well as theatrical roles before he retired in 2017. He was one of the hardest working actors in Hollywood, and he became a household name. Hollywood tributes have been pouring in from many actors, directors and producers. He proved himself many times over through his career to be an adaptable actor suitable for many roles in many different genres, and he will certainly be missed. Next week on Let's Talk Criterion, we'll feature another 4K upgrade for the 1981 Michael Mann film Thief, starring James Caan. So until then, from me, as always, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.